Small doses. Self-help from the hip. Small doses. We're talking that shit. Small doses. And keeping it real. Small doses. With me and them Seales. It's so funky. Welcome to another episode of Small Doses. We have one of the greatest smiles in the game.
Thank you.
Tika, did you ever have braces?
I didn't, but I did go to the dentist when I was able to afford it and
Just knocked it out. Because every time I'm just like, look at this. Look at these pearly whites.
Thank you, girl.
Just shining. We are joined by actress and now podcaster extraordinaire, Miss Tika Sumpter. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast family. When we were talking about what topic we should do, I was asking Tika, is there anything like top of mind that, maybe we can that we can use to move into a theme? And you mentioned your podcast. So we might as well just start with you talking about like what this podcast is that you're starting and why you felt it was necessary. And that will let us all get into why we are doing Side Effects of Black Motherhood.
Yeah, sure. So my partner, Ty Randolph, and I started a company called Sugarberry.com. And when we launched that, we also wanted to launch The Sugar, which is the podcast. And we just wanted to celebrate brown moms surrounding motherhood who are at the intersection of career, personal development, and motherhood, whether they're just dipping their toe in to see if they want to do it or not, or just are happy to be an auntie. But we wanted to create a site and a space and a community of women who don't always get to indulge in this atmosphere. It's a very white space. And that's what I found almost 3 years ago when I had my child. I was mining for information from other sites or just trying to kind of grasp at whatever was out there, and also just not seeing myself on certain sites. It was like bits and pieces dropped in.
So you're not on Goop? They don't have...
And it's no negativity to anybody else. It was just like, oh, okay, we're not here. We don't exist. And it just felt like when I did Google about us, it was death, doom, and destruction. While some of those things are very relevant and true, but there was just no balance to it all. So I was like, well, why not? And we launched literally, this has been a year in the making, and we had to stay at home order the day before we launched. So that was the little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Yeah.
But then did that end up being good?
Yes.
Right? Because it's a platform on the internet.
Yes. It actually... You're right, Amanda. It did. It actually turned out, it went from like, God, was I hearing like negative voices to like not real voices to actually start the thing. And then it was like, oh God, God's good, And
I see you. I see you.
I see how you turn it around, And so
you made the lemons into lemonade, which is sugar.
Dollar out of 15 cents.
Yeah, you go.
And we got great guests and we just get to talk about, I feel like we had our guest, Debbie Brown, and she is part of the Chopra Center and, works with Deepak Chopra and just talking about energy and all these good things, but not in a fairy tale-esque way. But like the fact that we don't ever get to really indulge in conversations about, things like that. And I kept saying, I love Jesus. Jesus is on the main line, but what does this crystal mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But what is hit me to an amethyst. So this rose quartz, where do I put, what do I do with this? I mean,
exactly.
I think it's so true because even saying like, Jesus on the main line, it's like, yeah, but why can't we help bolster that with other positive things? I mean, we live in a world that's been alive for a long time that has explored and uncovered all these other ways to help us feel grounded and help us on our journey to healing and security. And I think for a lot of us, our mothers, like that wasn't considered for our mothers.
Are you kidding me? First of all, our mothers my mom I could speak to just didn't have the time. You know what I mean? No. She was just like, how am I going to get this meal on this table and go around the corner? We need credit. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. So she didn't have time in that aspect, but I'm grateful for evolution and that I'm part of a generation of women who are able to help get therapy, are able to say it out loud so that other people know it's okay, you know? So yeah.
I mean, my mom always says like that our generation is different because we talk. We actually like say what's happening. Whereas she feels like their generation, and my mother just turned 73 this Saturday. And she's like, you know, our generation, you don't talk about what's wrong. You don't share, you just figure it out, you know, but you didn't really you may have figured it out like in praxis, but it's still internally, you know, a thing that you're carrying. And I think it's really dope that you are looking at this from this point of view. Like I created Smart Funny and Black from that sensibility about, you know, just seeing that we are inundated with negative images of Black folks on such a regular basis. And we don't have like spaces of celebration and of joy where we can have the balance. And so as a Black mother, it just feels like, to your point, it seems like, you know, there is a necessary conversation about like having to have the talk. And the talk is not birds and bees, but the talk is dealing with the police, right? Like having to be super hyper aware, you and your partner, that when you go to the hospital, there may be a lack of respect for like your own pain level and your wellness, et cetera. Like all of that is real, but also
very real.
But also, like, what about bonnets for babies? You know, like,
and what about my vagina? Like, let's talk about that. Like,
and how does that come back together?
Having a baby? Yeah, exactly. It's like we can do both, right? We can talk about maternal deaths and how they're so saturated in the African American world, no matter what socioeconomic planet you live on, right? I've had a crazy experience in the hospital, right? So it's not like it doesn't affect me, but like for me, it's when you just put this one imagery out of what Black motherhood looks like, we start believing that's what it is. And so does everybody else. So like, I wanted to we always say, there's our accountant right now who she's a grandmother, and she told Ty was telling her, oh, you know, when she first explained what we're doing, she said, oh, I love this idea because there are a various amount of right answers to motherhood and what it looks like. And so, and there was like a comment like, oh, Black motherhood that's not Black motherhood. And I'm like, sometimes, you know how sometimes like out of 200 comments, you're like, you look at the one comment.
What are you talking to about looking at a comment? What? Girl, it'll be 1,000 comments and I will see one comment that's like, I need to call her. I need to call this person right here because I don't even know how you could arrive at this. So we need
Ty called me because I don't look at comments like that. Like I can't, because my mind just can't. I go right to like extreme Tika, and nobody really knows that Tika, and I kind of want to keep her in a box because my mama's seen it and she didn't even know it was me. You know what I mean? She was like, first of all, who are you? And I'm like, I came from
you. I came from you.
Yeah, and so Ty called me and she's like, I just read this one comment, you know, and the lady was like, I'm sorry, I don't relate. That's not Black motherhood. And I said, you know, this is a really good conversation because what does it look like in so many different areas? It's not just one thing anymore, you know? So I'm glad that we're having those conversations.
What was was there a catalyst or were there a series of catalysts that led you to, because I'm really intrigued by this point of view just because it can be so difficult to get to a joy space, especially in these days. Like, so to be able to look at all the negativity and find like, okay, we need joy. Like sometimes, so that's like that's tough for a lot of people. Like that's why that person said that comment to you, because she's so inundated in her experience as a Black mother with negativity that like the idea of you presenting something other than that is so foreign that it doesn't even feel like her.
Right.
Like, and that is so,
I know, but and that's why I'm glad that we have this space, to be honest, because those are I want to have that conversation, right? And you can disagree with me. That's fine. For me, I think I'm just naturally a joyful person. Like I'm quiet, but I'm like naturally like joyful, and I'm an introvert, but I want to be happy. Like I don't want to look at I'm not in touch with reality because I know what's real.
You're not delusional. Right.
Not delusional. But I also seen like both halves. Like I was raised by a single mom for a very long time, but I saw my mom come out on the other side, and she's a happy person, and she forgives quickly, and she went through a lot. And I just feel like, and my mom got a divorce not too long ago. She was with my stepdad for over 20 years, and she recently found a new love. And she called me and she said, Tika, am I supposed to be this happy? I feel like something's gonna drop. And the idea that like, yes, you're not supposed to be struggling.
That joy.
Oh my God. And it made me, it even now, like, gives me like tears a little bit. Cause it's like this idea that we're always supposed to be struggling all the time. Like
that it's a part of our identity, that if you're not struggling, then you can't even claim this.
Exactly.
That's the brainwash.
But what I did see was that's the brainwash. You can't claim this space. You don't believe, because but when imagery, right? Whether it's movies, whether it's whatever it is, when it's showing you pain, that's what Black motherhood is. It's pain all the time. Yes, there's moments of pain for sure. But even when you're poor, like I grew up in Hollis, I was born in Hollis, Queens. I remember roaches and all that stuff I had in my house. You know what I mean? That my mom said my uncle brought in because he stayed with us for a while.
Fair.
She's like, your uncle did that.
Right. I'm not claiming it. It was him. And I'm a kind person for even allowing him to come in with his roaches.
But I just remember playing on the block all day, just happy. You know what I mean? But yeah, was my mom struggling? Yes. But like in those moments, there are happiness. And I just feel like a lot of the times that's not what's projected, And so seeing my mom come out on the other side and actually happy and just a joyful person in general, even before her being with this man, like that makes me want to bring more joy and light to the world and in this space.
So was there like a pivotal moment where you were like, oh, we need to do this? Or was it just, okay, what was that?
When I was pregnant with my child.
Oh yeah, you did say that. Just looking around, you were just like
looking around.
So when you were looking around and seeing that there wasn't, I guess the reason that question came to my mind is because it's one thing to look around and see like, oh, they don't have this, but it's another thing to like say, and I'm going to provide it. Like, what do you think it was that made you be like, I got to be the one to do this?
Well, it was scary as hell, one, because it was like, well, why hasn't anybody done it yet? Like, I don't understand. Right?
Maybe I'm going to uncover some shit and then it'll explain it to me and I'm going to go.
Yeah. Right. And so, I'm going right back to looking at goop for my fibroids. I basically, so this is the idea that I came up with. And then I went to talk to Ty, I just went to go bounce it off of her. She worked at Facebook. She's the co-president at LOL, Kevin Hart's company. And I was asked a friend, do you know somebody who's in this world who I can bounce this idea off of to see if it's even viable? And so her part of the story is she came to Soho House to have a glass of champagne and tell me not to get into it because most companies, like most media brands are, it's very hard to keep afloat, right? But when I was explaining the idea, she literally just had a child and she said, oh my God, I'd be your first customer. I've been looking for something like this and I'm not the only one. And she said it was just the gravitational pull was just so real that she's like, the way that I was explaining like the sweetness, but also talking about hard topics, but in a way that we care for us, right? And she was like, I love this idea could work if you do it in this way. So the balance of like my creativity and her, like, we need to also make money. you know what I mean?
And how is it
going to be? You got it.
That's me. I'm like, we can do? So I can be characters.
Yeah.
You know, so what?
You're
So
right.
I'm gonna have my assistant mail me the wig. You know,
So
and then,
funding.
right? How?
But I
What do we
do
do?
understand before we started self-funding it, we did go to a few like VCs, right? And this will eventually we'll do like a live joint on like we
That's a
went to a
whole
few
other thing.
VCs. They did not, first of all, they were like, is this a market? Just and not only that, do you know how much Black women spend spending power, wielding power? First of all, we're only 7% of the of the world
Spend
of
all
the
the money.
population. Over index on
We spend all the
everything,
money.
all of the money.
Yes.
And I'm like, wait, what? Huh? I said, okay, you know what? Y'all don't get this yet, but okay. And so we
Why do you
started,
think they
and
don't
now I'm
get
like,
it?
because when you have nobody around you who looks like us, why would they? Why would you be interested in somebody that you don't break bread with ever? You don't know their story. You know the story of the guy who created a ball in a anything that I'll give
Right.
you. We've heard stories of people getting so much money for ideas that were like, what? So you raised how much for an idea that's not even there? Just talking about it. It's crazy. And
You
then
know
when you're
what's
used to just giving,
it
no, go ahead,
makes
Amanda.
me really, I actually think it also is simply that they don't believe you. There's something about,
You're right.
I need to think more about that, because it even speaks to like in healthcare, the fact that they don't believe us when we're like, I'm in pain, you know? And it's like, I, because even if we wanted to say, okay, they don't have Black people around, okay,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
have numbers. These are people that live in numbers, right? So even the numbers don't lie. So why would you think I'm lying? So then I'm like, it's literally, it's just a cognitive dissonance of like, you may be right and these numbers may be right, but I just don't believe you.
I don't
Is
believe
it
you,
that
and
we're
prove it
that
to
much
me.
magic that they just don't believe us? Like,
Yeah, they're like, you can come back when you're actually successful, and then maybe I'll give you money.
listen, I
You
had an
know,
agent at an agency tell me when I moved to LA to do stand up, we're not gonna cover you in the stand up department. So until you start doing stand up in LA. So when you're doing stand up in LA and you get going, then come back to us. Well, what the
what
fuck
do
do
you
I
need?
need y'all for?
That's like a publicist, right? Telling you, yeah, they don't want to, not yet.
I can't.
Like it's almost not yet. It's like well then when are we going to push
It sounds like
forward the needle forward?
remnants of a very slave-minded thought process that says you do the work
Then come back.
and I'll reap the benefits.
Yeah. I didn't think of it like that. I think when you say when Black women are only 7% of the population, that number to them is not a big number. So it feels small. And so they put us in this box of you're small. But it's like we buy 40% of baby food and we're 7% of the population. Okay. Like that's crazy.
That's crazy. Also, why are we buying so much of the baby food? Like, what is that related to? So a lot of my friends are having these babies. These babies.
These babies, girl.
They having these babies out here. And I think the biggest thing that's been dope for me to experience and witness with them is just their honesty about the process and about the experience